regarding SPI and UART bus protocols. In today's class, I will start with one-wire interface. It is an asynchronous half-duplex communication protocol developed by the company Maxim Dallas Semiconductors. It is also known as Dallas one-wire protocol. Here, only one wire by the name DQ is used for the complete communication along with the power supply. One of the key features of one-wire bus is that it allows power to be sent along with the signal wire as well. So let me show you the diagram, block diagram, how it looks. So this is a microprocessor, and here we have two slaves, and this is the DQ signal through which the data communication happens between the master and the slave. Unique 64-bit identification number will be stored within it. This unique identification number can be used for addressing individual devices present on the bus in case there are multiple slave devices. There is possibilities there. One master and multiple slaves can be communicated with the help of one wire interface. The identifier has three parts: an 8-bit family code, 48-bit serial number, and 8-bit CRC computed from the first 56 bits, which is also part of the, as previously showed, the 64-bit identification. Right, for communicating with the one wire slave, the device, there are few steps which needs to be followed. I have listed here. There are 4 steps. The first one, the master device sends a reset pulse on the one wire bus. Second one, the slave device or devices present on the bus responds with a pre-sense pulse. The master device, then the third step is the master device sends a ROM command, that is the address to which it wants to communicate. Then it has to tell whether it wants to read or write. So these are the 4 things which has to happen whenever we are using a one wire interface. One wire interface can be used to connect multiple slaves to a common master. That is possible. Right, the communication over the one wire bus is divided into time slots of 60 microseconds. The reset pulse occupies 8 time slots. For starting a communication, the master asserts the reset pulse by pulling the one wire bus low for at least 8 time slots. This is the minimum requirement, that is around 480 microseconds. If a slave device is present on the bus and is ready for communication, it should respond to the master with presense pulse with 60 microseconds of release of the reset pulse by the master. So there are some time constraint which we have to follow, right, or else it will not work in the proper fashion. The slave device or devices responds with the presense pulse by pulling the one wire bus low for a minimum of 1 time slot, that is 60 microseconds. Here 1 time slot is 60 microseconds. Then the one wire bus, the bus master pulls the bus for 1 to 15 microseconds and release the bus for rest of the time slots. A bit value of 0 is written on the bus by master pulling the bus for a minimum of 1 time slot. Now to read a bit from the slave device, the master pulls the bus low for 1 to 15 microseconds. If the slave wants to send a bit value 1 in response to the read request from the master, it simply releases the bus for the rest of the time slot. If the slave wants to send a bit value 0, it pulls the bus low for rest of the time slot. Right, so this is the normal protocol which has to be followed. How the master will send the data to the slave, how the slave will send the data to the master. It can be a write from master to the slave or a read from master from the slave, both way. Right, next we'll see parallel interface. So we do have certain parallel interface in embedded systems normally used for communicating with peripheral devices which are memory mapped to the host of the systems. So these systems will be completely memory mapped onto the available memory which is available with the embedded systems. The host processor or controller of an embedded system contains a parallel bus, and a device which supports parallel bus can directly connect to this bus system. The communication through the parallel bus is controlled by control signal interface between the device and the host. The control signal for communication include read and write signal and device select signals. So obviously 3 control signals are required. Out of the multiple slave or the host, you have to select which slave you want to communicate. Then the 2 more control signals are whether you want to read or write. The device normally contains a device select line, and a device becomes active only when the line is asserted by the host processor. The memory map to the host processor and range of address is assigned to it. An address decoder circuit is used for generating the chip select signal for the device. When address selected by the processor is within the range assigned for the device, the decoder circuit activates the chip select line and thereby the device becomes active. The processor then can read or write from or to the device by asserting corresponding controls, that is RD for read, WR for write respectively. So as shown in the figure, here you can see there are read and write signals, control signals, and we have a parallel data bus. And we have an address bus to identify which particular peripheral you want to address. Then, if a device wants to initiate the communication, it can inform the same to the processor through the interrupt. For this, the interrupt line of the device is connected to the interrupt line of the processor, and the corresponding interrupt is enabled in the host processor. It's like all of you know how an interrupt works. Interrupt is nothing but a disturbance to the normal flow of execution. Just think that processor is performing some function. Now the external peripheral wants to send some data to the processor, so it has to disturb the normal operation of the processor. Now that disturbance will come as an interrupt. The width of the parallel interface is determined by the data bus width of the host processor. It can be 4, 8, 16, 32 or 64 bits. The bus width supported by the device should be same as that of the host processor. Parallel data communication offers the highest speed of data transfer. Obviously, parallel data means at once multiple data, 8 or 16 or 32 bit data will communicate at a single clock cycle, whereas in serial data communication it happens bit by bit. Next we'll see external communication interfaces. Few external communication interfaces refers to the different communication channel buses used by the embedded systems to communicate with external world. Some examples are RS-232 with the version C, RS-485. We have USB, most of us are using it for our laptops. IEEE 1394 FireWire, also called as FireWire. Infrared IR, which we use in day-to-day life as a remote controller for our TV and our sound systems, etc. Bluetooth we are using inside our mobile phones. Wi-Fi we are using Wi-Fi hubs inside our house for internet connectivity. Zigbee some of you might have used in your projects, and GPRS for mobiles once again. The communication standard number 232 revision C is a legacy full duplex wired asynchronous serial communication interface. This interface was developed by Electronic Industries Association, in short EIA, during the early 1960s. RS-232 extends the UART communication signal for external data communication. UART uses the standard TTL or CMOS logic. Logic high corresponds to bit value 1, logic low corresponds to bit value 0 for bit transmission, whereas RS-232 follows EIA standard for bit transmission. As per the EIA standard, a logic 0 is represented with logic voltage between 3 to plus 25, and logic 1 is represented between -3 to -25 volts. Now this RS-232 supports two different types of connectors, DB9 and DB25. Now these connections you can find in the older PCs, even in few of our PCs which are present in our college. You can check out. If you are interested, you can just pull the CPU outside and you can see these connectors at the back side of the systems. Along with the USB, you can see this DB9 and DB25 connectors. So these are some of the pins of this DB9 and DB25. No need of remembering all these pins, but you should be having some rough idea. What does it mean? For example, the TXT is transmit pin for transmitting serial data. RXT is the receive pin for receiving the serial data. Then RTS and CTS is request to send and clear to send. DSR is for data set ready, signal ground. DCD is for data carrier detection. DTR is for data terminal ready. RI is ring indicator, and so on, right? Then RS-232C and RS-485 are the most standard and famous protocols, serial protocols used in most of the industries. So the RS-232 communications are called data terminals equipped with DTE and data communication equipment DCE. If no data flow control is required, only TXT and RXT signal lines and ground lines G and D are required for data transmission and reception. The RXT pin of DCE should be connected to the TXT pin of DTE and vice versa for proper data transmission. That is, the reverse connection has to happen, transmitter to the receiver and receiver to the transmitter on both sides. If hardware data flow control is required for serial transmission, various control signal lines of the RS-232 connection are used appropriately. Now receive to select RTS and clear to send. Receive to send RTS and clear to send CTS signals coordinate to communicate between DTE and DCE. Whenever the DTE has data to send, it receives the RTS line, and if the DCE is ready to accept the data, it activates the CTS line. These are common protocols. We have to first we should understand the meaning of these signals. What is RTS, what is CTS, as shown in that small tabular format. What is DTE, DC? Then we should, obviously after understanding, we should be able to recollect it whenever some questions have been asked. In exam, most of the time they will ask how this protocol is going to work. Then obviously you have to write the answer with respect to the meaning for each one of these. Right? The data terminal ready DTR signal is activated by DTE when it is ready to accept the data. The data set ready DSR is activated by DCE when it is ready for establishing a communication link. DTR should be in the activated state before the activation of DSR. The data carrier detect DCD control signal is used by the DCE to indicate the DTE that good signal is being received. Ring indicator RI is modem specific signal line for indicating an incoming call. So RS-232 supports baud rate up to 200 kbps, upper limit of 19.2 kbps. The commonly used baud rate is nothing but the speed at which the data transfers are around 300 bps. Here bps stands for bytes per second. 1200 bps, 2400 bps, 9600 bytes, and 11.52 kbps, 19.2 kbps. 9600 is the popular baud rate setting used for PC communication. If you want to communicate your PC with external embedded systems, as we do in our ARM controller, I hope all of you remember, whenever after writing the simulating the code, whenever we try to dump the code onto the ARM controller board, we used to set the baud rate to 9600. That is the standard popular baud rate setting used for PC communication. The maximum operating distance supported by RS-232 is around 50 feet at the highest supported baud rate. Embedded devices contain UART for serial communication, and they generate signal levels conforming to TTL and CMOS logic. A level translator IC like MAX232 from Maxim Dallas Semiconductor is used for converting the signal lines from UART to RS-232 signal line for communication. Right, that conversion has to happen with the help of MAX232. Now, point-to-point communication and not suitable for multi-drop communications. If it uses single-ended data transfer technique for signal transmission and thereby more susceptible to noise, and it greatly reduces the operating distance. Whereas RS-422 is another serial interface standard from EIA for different data communication. It supports data rate up to 100 kbps and distance up to 400 feet. RS-422 supports multi-drop communication with one transmitter device and receiver device up to 10. RS-485 is the enhanced version of 422, and it supports multi-drop communication with up to 32 transmitting devices, drivers, and 32 receiving devices on the bus. The communication between devices in the bus uses addressing mechanism to identify slave devices. Alright, so that's all for today's class. The next class we will be starting with the USB, that is Universal Serial Bus.